Today we're going to cover TPARs, which is our taxable payments annual reports. That if you've made payments to contractors or subcontractors within your organisation, you will need to lodge a TPAR report to the ATO, and it's an annual report, so you only have to just do it once a year. And it's in August, usually August the 28th is the reporting period that you need to submit that particular report to the ATO on the financial year that's just finished. I'll just get up and share my screen with you so we can go through it on Xero, so you can have an idea of what it is and how to go about lodging your TPAR. And if you're utilising software like Xero, you can lodge it directly to the ATO if you're lodging your BASs through Xero, etc. If you've got that link set up, and obviously you have permissions. So with the TPAR, where we start is we just go to accounting and we go into reports. Now, because we're doing this report only once a year, I don't usually have it flagged. So I just go into the search bar and have a look for it, and the taxable payments annual report is there. It'll take it straight to it. You can look at previous years as to what you've done, and what we're going to have a look at today. I think we've got some data in the 2022, so we'll start there on the 2022 year. So what we need to do to populate this particular report, we need to create some rules so that as we're reconciling throughout the year, that the data is automatic starting to populate this particular report. So when it comes time to lodge it, that it's already there, you're just going to go through the data and make sure it's correct. So we need to record all the payments. So firstly, we click on the edit rules. I usually select all contacts to choose from, and I usually have the rules set to a chart of contractors. So when reconciliation is happening within your organisation and you're paying your subcontractors or contractors, you need to reconcile them to that particular chart. And in this case, what we usually use is contractors. Depends on the complexity of your business. So then you hit save to save that rule. And so it'll be any contact that has been reconciled to the chart contractors is going to show up on this particular report. And as you can see, we've got 3 contractors that was paid throughout the year on this file. But Xero is giving us a bit of a warning saying that it needs attention. There's data that's not completely filled in on Xero, so we need to go in and make sure that it's got all the information. Because when the ATO receives this, they need certain bits of information so they can marry it up to the contractor. So if we click on the update, and in here, so it's asking us for address. So I can just put in, it's not a intuitive. I might call it Albury. And then the other item they're going to need is the ABN. So I've just got some ABNs that I've got ready to go. So there's these are obviously not linked. They are ABNs, but not for this particular organisation. It also asks for bank account numbers if you have it, any phone number like contact details, etc. In this particular case, it's not mandatory. So I'm going to click save on that. But just looking a little bit further down, we can see the transactions that were made. So if you know that you worked with Odette in this particular case just the once and it was in June, well, then you're going to go, yep, that looks right. And he charged me GST for it. And if they didn't have GST, obviously it wouldn't show up as any GST, because that's what the ATO is checking to see if you're how you're paying your contractors, whether they were GST registered or not, or what was on their particular invoices. And that's why in your reconciliation process, if you have invoices to attach, it's going to make this job a lot easier, because I could just go into that transaction, look at the invoice, find the ABN of Odette, and then populate it within this particular space. But for you as a business owner, if you're not going to that step when you're getting new contractors and subcontractors, it means at the end of the year, you've got to rush around, go through paperwork and try and find those details or do some searches on them. So, it's always best to do it as you get it, to attach those documents. So if I hit save there, it'll save that particular ODET is all good to go. But we've still got these two guys we need to have a look at. So once again, I'm just going to fill out some addresses. And another ABN that I've just got a hold of. Happy with that information. Looking at, when the expense was made. Obviously that detail is probably not correct because we're just working in the demo company. GST was charged. And then you can see Oliver is now updated, and then we've got to update our last one here. So I'll grab another ABN. I'll leave the bank account. I'll save that one as well. See the transaction. So now we've got, for the 2022 financial year, we've got the TPAR, the taxable payments annual report is now populated with the contractors or subcontractors that were paid throughout the year. As a business owner, you're looking at that and going, yep, that's correct. I only remember or I only have on my records. So probably going by memory isn't great. Going off your records that they're the contractors or subbies that you had throughout the year in your particular business. So now it's about getting ready to lodge it. So if you are in working with someone else and you want them to check it, you can export this particular report and send it to them and go, was there any other subbies that we worked with? You could go through your contacts list in Xero to see if there was any others in there that you might want to have a look at. So just to make sure that you're confirming that the data that you've got in here is correct, because when the ATO will get it, they're obviously going to be looking at the reporting from those subbies to see if they declared the income and that they charged GST, if they were GST registered. So that's where sometimes those mismatches might occur. So you can export this to ATO format. So if you're having a problem lodging it through Xero, if you don't have that particular like submit BAS permission that's on your username, well then you would have to export it to ATO format and then manually input it through your MyGov access. Otherwise, if you've got all that access, you're just going to hit the button of lodge to ATO. So this is a demo company, so it's not going to let me do it. But for yourselves, it would come up with the normal warning that if you're on payroll and lodging your single touch payroll, those kind of warnings will come up saying, is it correct what you're sending to the ATO? And obviously you would hit yes. Let's just have a quick look. It won't let me export it to ATO format as well because we're in that demo company. Just a bit of a tip. So this time of the year can be quite hectic. So why not be prepared throughout the year? So once remember we set up these rules here and we said anything that goes to this particular chart, which is 413 contractors, anyone in there is going to be, needs to show up on the TPAR report for the next financial year. So as you were doing your reconciliation in the 2023 financial year, chart your subbies and contractors to the contractor chart. And make sure you're collecting the information you need, such as what you saw. You need addresses and you need ABNs in there, and whether or not they are charging GST. So it's going to make you look a bit more closer at those particular invoices for those particular contractors to make sure you're recording it correctly. Because if on their invoice they weren't charging GST, however you collected it, well, that's going to cause a mismatch with the ATO. And they would then have a look into that to see who was reporting it wrong. So if reconciliation's already started for the financial year, if you had transactions, I'm going to go in here and change these particular rules so that you can see what I've got in here. So if I go to contractors, so obviously I'm not going to lodge the 2023 year, but there's been some reconciliations happen and I've got Harry and Jason that have been subbies and worked with us. So they're already starting to migrate into that TPAR, ready to go for the next financial year. So it's, you know, a good thing, maybe quarterly you have a quick look at it, make sure you think about the subbies you've had in that quarter, and going to that TPAR report, make sure you've got their ABNs and their addresses updated, GSTs being collected correctly. Yeah, so it's pretty short and sweet. It's about getting the data right, doing the hard work when you first start working with those subbies. You know, just collecting that information is really advantageous to you later on, and that's where you're probably going to need the time because it's quite busy. All right, so so that concludes the TPAR report. Hopefully it was helpful. Let us know if there's anything, any other details that you need to know or understand. ATO has some really good information on their website if you want to know whether you should be lodging a TPAR. But you can always have a look at your MyGov account and see whether or not what your lodgements are that are outstanding to lodge. Thanks very much for joining me today. And yeah, so I'm sure it was of help, and we'll see you again. Thanks.